Hi, welcome to Dwayne's Guitar Lessons. I'm instructor Dwayne Jenkins, and today's video we're going to be continuing our study on of learning how to play lead guitar. In this series we are working out of this book right here, How to Play Lead Guitar Wizardry Volume 1, which shows you the fundamentals of how to play, your scales, your techniques, where to play, that kind of stuff. That's stuff that's really important in the very beginning. Then once you get that down, then you can kind of build on that. But the main thing you want to do is build that solid foundation, okay? And we've been studying on the pentatonic pattern, the pentatonic scale. There's 5 patterns and you want to learn them so that you can build a road map on your fretboard. And that way you can play all over the place on the fretboard.
Audio Jungle.
Alright, so here we are looking at our second pattern of the fretboard, and what we want to do with these scales, these patterns, whatever you want to call them, is we want to build that road map like I told you on the fretboard. This is how guitar players can play all over the neck and they sound good no matter where they play. Okay, it's because they know these scales, they know how to interact with them, kind of connect them like puzzle pieces, and they know the intervals, and they know how to sound good. And you know, if you don't know these scales, you know, you fumble around. Some stuff you play sounds good, some stuff you don't. It's because you're hitting notes that aren't in the scale. But if you learn these scale patterns, you're going to be able to sound good no matter where you play. Okay, so right now we're talking about the key of A minor, okay, which is right here at the 5th fret. Okay. That's our number 1 scale pattern, and if you've been watching the videos, you know where that's at now. If you haven't, I'll leave a link below so you can check that out, okay? That's usually the first pattern to start with. I'd recommend that's the first scale to learn, okay? That's very common for playing lead guitar. Now, our second pattern is going to it's going to start where the first one ends. So the first one is in A, okay? This is an A, 5 to 8, okay? Which means that our second pattern is going to start right here where our first one ends. So it's going to be in the key of A minor. It's going to be 8, 10. Then on the 5th string, 7, 10. 7, 10 again on the D string. Then 7, 9. 8, 10. 8, 10. So if we went back, it'd be 10, 8, 10, 8, 9, 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 10, 8, and then resides on the 5. And you can tell it's in the key of A. Even though we're starting up here, we're still in the key of A because you can tell it resides on that note, okay? So now, by knowing our first pattern and knowing our second pattern, we can now play from the 5th fret all the way up to the 10th fret, okay? All this stuff here, right here, we can play and sound good as long as we know the intervals of the notes on each string. Like for instance, from the 5 to the 10, the interval on the 1st and the 6th string, because they're the same, is going to be a 5 to 8 to 10. See how those all sound good together. But if we try to add like this note, it don't sound right because it's not in the key, okay? I'm not saying you can't use it as a passing tone, but these are your main tones right here, your 5, your 8, and your 10 within these 2 scale patterns, okay? Now what we want to do is we want to get familiar with the scale pattern just like we did the first one. Now we can go from the 5 all the way to the 10, and if we, got our patterns down real well, we can play in between them. See, all those notes sounded good because we know that pattern. So what I would recommend doing is really studying that pattern, okay? I'm presenting the book in the key of A minor, but when you get that down real good, then move it to different keys, okay? And a good way of doing this is practicing along with backing tracks, okay? So what I've done, I've got my phone here and I've hooked it up to YouTube, and I'm going to play a little backing track here and show you a little bit about what I'm talking about, okay? So this is kind of just like a blues backing track in A, and I'm going to play that second pattern and we'll listen to how the notes sound, okay? doesn't sound right. That's the note you want. Now, not to say you couldn't use it as a passing tone like something like this. You can even do that if you want, you know? But you can just tell when you're listening that if you stick with those notes that are in the pattern, it's going to sound good every time. And then remember your root notes as well. Like there's an A right there, and there's an A right here as well. See, that note isn't in the pattern. You can just tell it don't sound right. It's not in the scale. That note is. So master your intervals. Master whether it's a whole step or a step and a half. So you just hear that just fits. Stick with just these notes in the pattern, I'm telling you, it's going to sound good. And once again, like we start using the notes that aren't in the scale. See, that don't sound right. That's not in the scale because those notes aren't in there. We use these notes, now it sounds good. See that note? It don't sound good. These sound good. So if you stick to those patterns, I'm telling you, okay? And I'm gonna stop this for now. This is a great way to practice this, okay? Is just get your scale and just practice that scale over and over again, and then connect it with the other scale, you know? Look at your scales. Practice your visualization that I talked about. Okay? Practice that. That'll really help you a lot. Alright, so there we have it, our second pattern in the second scale pattern, pentatonic scale pattern in the key of A minor. Like we talked before, in your key of A minor, you're going to start at the 5th, that's your first pattern. Your second pattern is going to start where your first one ends, which is 8 in the key of A minor, so it's now 8-10. Right there I went half of this pattern, and then I went half of this pattern, okay? So that allows you to build that roadmap, okay? Because that's what you want to do with playing lead guitar, is build that roadmap. And by learning these pentatonic patterns, these 5 that we're going to go through in these next few lessons, this is going to show you how to do that, okay? So, practice that with your backing tracks, like I'd mentioned, you know, just get something on YouTube. Don't make it, doesn't have to be anything fast, just slow like what I presented there. And we'll do that with the other patterns too, and you'll see how it all builds itself, okay? So thank you so much, appreciate it. Be sure to check out my website at dwaynesguitarlessons.com. If you haven't, be sure to join my guitar club and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for future notifications. If you have any questions about anything you're working on or anything I've taught you or anything anybody else has taught you, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I will be sure to help you out. Or if there's a video you need me to make for you, I'll be happy to do that as well, okay? So until our next lesson, take care.